Hey guys, SoCal Val here. You are listening to the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast.
Saturday night's all right for fine. It always is on a Saturday night now on TNT with AEW. Of course, this is the Collision Review Show. I am Adam Cousins, and like we've just said, we was temporarily bidding you adieu. The problem child is still here, Dave Robinson. We will get straight into. Well, I'm not going to get straight into Collision. There's a couple of bits actually. Dave, before we get started with Collision, there was a couple of bits of news I purposely left out of Dynamite because obviously we try to limit the shows as much as we can in terms of time. The first one was that apparently WWE are the front runners to be coming onto TNT or the show that AEW is on. They are one of the front runners for the rights to Monday Night Raw. How the hell is this going to work?
Yeah, I was meant to read up on this afternoon prior to the show, but I didn't. But my thoughts are that it can't happen. But is it a conflict of interest? But as I said, I just said to you on the end of the Dynamite show, and we're talking about the show in a few weeks with Eric Bischoff. They are a different. It's still wrestling, and there's people that enjoy both, but there are people that aren't going to enjoy WWE and not going to enjoy AEW and vice versa. So there is a kind of target demographic that is different. So if WWE is the more the family-friendly show and AEW is the more late-night, edgier show, then perhaps there is a world where both can exist on the same network. It's a strange one, though. It's a strange one. I mean, there's not going to be any kind of collaboration between the two companies.
Absolutely.
And there's no... Both companies are in a healthy way. I would say WWE is really, really hot right now. And they're doing not just financially, the on-screen product is very good as well, and they're in a good space. But it's not so long ago that AEW were in that position, and WWE was on a bit of a decline, and people weren't happy, and the product wasn't great. And it's not just Triple H, that's been a big factor, but Triple H was there during that time as well. So there's been different things, but I think both companies are still massively successful. I don't think Tony Khan has got any ambition to kind of give up or to fold the company or to merge the company, sell the company. So it was a strange piece of news which caught me off guard. And as I say, I haven't really looked into the mechanics of it. If it's just a rumor, or if there is some substance behind it. Was it Meltzer that reported it, or
I can't quite remember. There was quite a few, and there was also a report to say that Nick Khan had gone to WBO, wherever it is, and had pitched it, and it had failed. There was a lot of stuff at this point coming out, so I think it's just a case of wait and see with it.
Well, I mean, WWE is on TNT in the UK now. I don't understand how how everything is put together, and whether TNT is Turner, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
So that's part of Warner Brothers.
Yes,
I think so. It's all, even with it being in the UK, it's ultimately one company. So is there a conflict of interest there? I mean, we get AEW in the UK on ITV, or terrestrial television, whereas WWE is behind a paywall on TNT, which used to be BT Sports. It was on Sky Sports prior to that. So I'm not sure how this all comes together, and the factors involved, and how everything gets green lighted. I don't know if there's anybody out there that could kind of jump on the show with us and talk us through that, because it's not something we've got great knowledge in terms of television marketing and deals and stuff like that. But yeah, but in the United States, for both of the top two wrestling companies to be on the same network on different nights, perhaps, I just don't see how that works. But what are your thoughts on it, and what did you think when you heard it?
I was thinking, when is the AEW deals up initially? Maybe they were thinking of dropping AEW, going with WWE. But I think still, it wouldn't surprise me if they end up streaming on like an Amazon or something like that. I think that's probably where they're going to end up in the future.
WWE.
Yeah. Oh, probably both, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, I was intrigued, and I was slightly because I don't want them on both on the same network. I'm not sure about the conflict of interest, as you correctly pointed out. Maybe there is there. Maybe they can only have one. But I would just rather them go somewhere else, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I don't know whether they consider themselves the home of wrestling, but as I say, it's two different products. Maybe it could work. What do I know? What do we know about this type of stuff? But
exactly.
historically, it's always been on different networks. Always,
Yeah.
you've never had it any other way. And then you've got different investment and stuff and money that they're pumping in. So would that be equal? Would that be based on revenue? Would that be meaning that they'd be putting more money into WWE than AEW? What kind of conflict would that cause? Tony Khan has obviously had the relationship with Warner Brothers for getting on for 5 years now.
Yeah.
It's business. Things do chop and change. I didn't even factor in the possibility of them dropping AEW, but yeah, maybe AEW would be on the way out if Warner Brothers struck up a deal with WWE. Yeah, strange one, but one that we'll keep on top of, and yeah, we'll see where that goes.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't think it'll be long before we find out anyway. I think they've got to announce something soon. We'll move on though from that. Britt Baker. Now we mentioned this on Dynamite. You did mention that Britt had been a bit frustrated on social media, was talking about time limits and not having a lot of time, and MJF's promo was this long and someone else done this long, and she's had no minutes of promo time. And you did mention the potentially with the devil, playing devil's advocate here. If she's not, obviously we're not assuming that Britt's going to leave, but she's not done anything for some time now. Has she got a right to be frustrated, assuming she isn't the devil?
I think she's got a right to be frustrated regardless. But the way that she's aired it, I'm hoping that it is part of the story. I really do. Because AEW doesn't need any more unrest. They don't need any more wrestlers coming out saying this is wrong. This is criticizing the product, criticizing their opportunities. And as we discussed on Dynamite, QT, Matt Hardy, there's a few kind of disgruntled voices back there. We could really do without that. It should be, and I know it's 2023 and Twitter, X and social media and everything else. You kind of we hear a lot more and are exposed to a lot more and can find out a lot more. But I think if she's unhappy with her position in the company, that conversation should be happening privately with Tony Khan, with producers, and because she's right, she's absolutely right. Now, Christian and MJF are two of the best talkers on the microphone, and we want to be hearing from them every week, and they're a ratings draw every week. But I've got no doubt that Britt Baker could once again be a ratings draw. We've saw her put some great promos, be involved with some great angles, have some great matches. Totally understand the frustration. She should be a featured star. She should be front and center. She has had her injury issues as well. So maybe similar to what we were saying about Jeff Hardy, and a kind of a trust thing, or does Tony Khan want to thrust somebody into the limelight or into a spotlight, into a title run when they're dealing with some pretty severe injury concerns? AEW, as we've said, have already had a run of champions that have had to relinquish the titles because of such things, which has scuppered programs and plans to a degree. And you're always going to get that in wrestling. People are going to pick up injuries and you're going to have to pivot and do something different. Maybe that plays into it a little bit, but I'm hopeful that she's, even if she's not the devil, that she is involved with that. And there's a bit of the rumor getting a bit of traction about some of the originals, some of the, perhaps not Darby, but the Sammys, Jungle Boy, Britt Baker, people like that, perhaps forming some kind of alliance to take out MJF. But I'm hoping it is just wrestling storyline and kayfabe. But we'll see.
We'll take just congratulations to Sammy Guevara and Tay Mello or Tay Guevara on the birth of their child.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
don't know what people were talking about. This Nitro logo. It's nothing like the Collision one, is it?
We'll have to ask Bischoff.
Sorry for our Spotify and Apple Music listeners.
Yeah, if you can't see it, but if Dave's wearing a WCW Nitro hat, nothing to do with the fact that he's coming on with Eric Bischoff in a couple of weeks. But yeah, it's strikingly similar to the Collision logo. But yeah, you'll have to come on the YouTube to watch that. But listen to on Spotify as well, because we're climbing that chart again. So make sure you do both. Do both. Before we get onto Collision, Ric Flair.
Oh, man.
Jesus Christ. Rampage. He cuts a promo. Now it was edited out of the version that I've seen. But to the live crowd, he mentioned that any women between the age of 18 and 28 can come to his hotel room. Dave, fucking make some sense out of this.
I can't, mate. There's no place for Ric Flair on AEW television in 2023. There's no place for Ric Flair in the WWE in 2023. Thanks for everything he's done. He's been a legend. You know, a lot of people call him the greatest of all time. I don't share that sentiment. He's done some pretty heinous things that have been documented on Dark Side of the Ring and other places. You know, not just rumors, stuff that, you know, and there was a certain culture and there was a way things was, and I'm not justifying that. Unfortunately, that kind of stuff was commonplace when he was a young wrestler. But times are different now. And the way that he spoke about women, the way that I just can't kind of get behind it, get my head around why Tony Khan would want somebody like that in his company, and I've got a live microphone in the ring. You know, he's provided a lot of great moments over the years and a lot of things that kind of I look back on and yeah, thank him for those memories, but I don't want him creating any more. You know, and I don't want him, even if it is just a temporary run until we see Sting retire in a few months' time.
Yeah.
He's not the type of person I think should have been brought into the company.
Right.
And I can't ignore that. And a lot of people won't ignore that.
No.
Tony Khan has been very vocal in his criticism of Vince McMahon, rightly so. Others have been critical of Vince McMahon, but for Tony Khan to be critical of him and then bring in Ric Flair on a contract because it's one of his friends, that's a huge mistake. That's a huge mistake. And I would say that's one of his biggest mistakes since running the company. So I know that's a bit of a hot take, but I don't want to see a 78-year-old man, 74-year-old man, however old he is, talking about women in that way. I don't see him talk about anybody in that way, to be honest.
Yeah.
Let alone targeting 18 to 28-year-old women. If I'm in that crowd, I'm furious. I'm furious when I'm reading it. You know, on behalf of women, on behalf of guys that have stood next to their partners and girlfriends and wives and daughters, hearing this old senile man make these kind of just putrid comments. So that's my opinion. I don't know if you share the same or whether you welcome a bit of Ric Flair in 2023.
No, absolutely not. I totally agree with what you're saying. And
it's embarrassing.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
It is. And I want to move off that subject quickly and talk about something really good. So let's talk about Collision. And the first match was the Blue League of the Continental Classic. Claudio Castagnoli and Brody King. This was two big, strong, meaty motherfuckers beating the hell out of each other. And on this occasion, Brody Lee, again, maybe a surprise, picks up the victory and now goes undefeated in the C2 on the blue side. What a great way to open Collision.
Awesome. And from the time the bell went, they just went at each other with forearms and kicks. And yeah, this was a great way to open the show. I'm really pleased that Brody, like as we talked about, comprehensive victories or victories in terms of there was no outside interference, which they've kind of eliminated from this tournament. It was just two guys, could have gone either way. Claudio could have won another night. Glad that Brody got the win. That's 6 points now from two matches. Yep. He's beat Eddie Kingston and now he's beat Claudio Castagnoli. So a big force in this tournament. He's showcasing what he can do as a single star, which we haven't seen a great deal of in AEW. We've seen him team with Malachi on occasions. We've seen him team with Buddy. We've seen him in his trios run. There hasn't been too many occasions where he's just gone out there and had singles matches, and he's getting that opportunity now by being involved in the C2. I think he's a great addition. I think it's really fascinating that he's now on 6 points because I don't foresee Swerve, my prediction in the Gold League, going up against Brody, my prediction in the, I don't predict that would be the final two. So I'm interested as to see who wins that blue side. Not to say that Swerve definitely win the gold. That's just what I predict, but I'm trying to piece it together in my head, like where they go with that. So we'll see. There's some big matches coming up. He's got Andrade. He's got Danielson. Who else has he got?
I don't know.
one more. They've all got 5 matches, haven't they? He's got Daniel Garcia.
Daniel.
So looking at that, I would expect Brody to win all his 5 matches. So if he doesn't, it'll be interesting to see why he doesn't, and if he does, where they go with him.
Yeah, it will be very interesting. I'm very much looking forward to. As you say, the C2's been great so far, and I'm looking forward to seeing what's next with that. Speaking of C2, Moxley cut a brief promo. He was just saying he was sick and tired of being sick and tired. He's tired of being mad depressed, and he's going to do the only thing that he knows how to do, and that's wrestle his way out of it. I'm hoping that wasn't a hint that he's in a bit of trouble, mentally. I'm hoping that was just a promo. We'll see.
Yeah.
Follows up with Abaddon versus Kiera Hogan. I mean, this wasn't barely more of an enhancement match, but I would say this: Abaddon looks great at the moment, and she's lost a bit of weight. She's been quite good posting about that. She's in good shape. It was, it was a standard run-of-the-mill enhancement match. No disrespect to Kiera Hogan, I thought it was good. Interestingly enough, after that match, Julia Hart, the lights go out, and Julia Hart comes in. But Abaddon's looking really good at the minute.
Yeah, they are, and I'm trying to get my head around the pronoun stuff. So apologies to anybody listening out there if I do slip and say her or she, because I know that they like to be referred to as they, and we'll try and support that in any way we can. But absolutely great showing for them. In terms of the bit with Julia Hart, I think that sets up an intriguing encounter, and I'm really glad for Abaddon as well. I'm glad that they're getting the opportunity to showcase what they can do. The finisher, the Black Dahlia, that's a unique finish as well. I've not seen that before from what I can recall. That's the first time I've saw it. So I think to begin with, the zombie stuff was a bit too much, and it was a bit too far-fetched, and it was a bit Walking Dead-esque, and they were trying to bite their opponents, so I think a watered down version of that, still the Living Dead girl, that was appearing on the screen, but more of a serious competitive side as well, somebody that perhaps will go after that TBS championship now, and I think they're a great addition to be a full-time member of that women's roster.
Yeah, I think it's about time. She's been there quite a while, so it's really good to see her grow, or watch her grow, and keep getting better and better now. And as you say, a bit more of a serious gimmick side to her really works. So hopefully we'll see more of that. Speaking of wanting to see more of something, brings me to, they was having a bit of an interview with Samoa Joe. And Roderick Strong is now got it. Samoa is now, instead of Adam, it's now Samoa. He was about there, but Samoa Joe laughed it off. But Roderick Strong is brilliant for this just comedy value alone, Dave.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed this run from Roddy. I think he's played it so well. Whether he's going to be involved with the devil stuff, I'm not sure. I kind of hope in some respects now that he's not, and I'm completely wrong about Adam Cole, and Roddy can kind of keep this going, because it's really over with the fans. You hear it every time he hits an Adam, that the crowd are doing it along with him. He's always been good in the ring, like we've spoken about previously.
Yeah,
and now this character, the character development, the Kingdom as well. I think they're really unsung heroes in all of this. I think they're a great team in the ring. They've really complemented what Roddy's been doing. I hope this keeps running for a while. I'm not bored of it at all. I think this is really some entertaining stuff.
Yeah, me too. More of the same, please. Speaking of more of the same, again, we go back to the C2. Garcia and Andrade, El Idolo. This was a great match. What a match. And this is the Andrade that we've always wanted to see. I mean, Garcia will always deliver in these type of matches, but obviously Andrade in the WWE, we never really got to see enough of him. But this is exactly the type of competition that will show everybody, if they didn't know, how good Andrade is. Also, he picked up the win in this match as well.
Yeah, this was awesome. This match was, my match of the night on Collision. And that's saying something as well, because I absolutely love the main event. But this for me, I love Andrade, and I love I love how they've got this slow burn feud with Miro that we'll pick up on in a bit, because we saw something backstage, but that's the way it's going to be going. They can't all win the tournament, and we've got, out of the 12 guys, you've probably got 9 guys that you would say could feasibly win the tournament out of that, and Andrade is definitely one of them. But if he doesn't, and we go on and see matches with Miro right at the top of the card, on a hopeful run, again, I say this about a lot of guys, AEW has got to be thinking that Andrade is going to be a world champion there one day, whether that's in the near future or the distant future, and how we get there remains to be seen. But I just love that we're getting banger after banger from Andrade, and his involvement in this tournament guarantees us at least 5 of them, and this was one of them on Collision. And a word about Daniel Garcia as well. Definite future star for the company. Definite future. He's a current star for the company, but I think he's going to be a huge star for the company. I've never seen him have a bad match. Technically he's brilliant. He has best matches against some of the best wrestlers in the world on a consistent basis. We've seen him pick up a big win against Danielson in the past, which was no kind of accident. Bryan Danielson, 100%. Obviously, he's a big fan of Red Death. So I'm glad he's in the tournament. I don't expect him to pick up many wins. I hope he does get some points. But this was an awesome match, but ultimately the right winner.
It was, and I agree. I would just have to disagree with the match of the night. I'm going to pip the main event to that, but we'll get onto that.
I totally understand. They were both sensational. I'm a huge Andrade fan. I thought these guys had such great chemistry, but I totally understand what you're saying, and we'll get to the main event.
We do indeed. We'll get, first off, we've got the Kingdom. They beat the I Am Savages. Didn't really do much on this one. It wasn't much of a match, but after that, we'll get your views on it in a minute. But after that, Ethan Page is in the best shape of his life, and he's called out Kenny Omega next week, and it's going to happen. I believe it's happening next week. It is Kenny Omega, Ethan
Collision
Page
next week.
Collision next week. So obviously thoughts on the first one, the Kingdom picking up a win, but it's good to see the Iron Savages getting some TV time, and that match next week should be a brilliant one with Omega and Page.
Yeah, really entertaining team, the Iron Savages. So ultimately was a bit of a squash. But I was glad to see them. They were kind of Collision originals as well. We saw them in the early when Collision launched. So glad to see they're still there. I love Boulder. I think he's fantastic. He'll hit that moonsault one day and it'll kill someone. But yeah, the right winners, as I said, huge fan of the Kingdom. I loved Brody jump in the ring as well and hit that kick right at the end. And then get back in his wheelchair. And I think he fell over the wheelchair, which caused the wheelchair to break. But that was kind of funny as well. But yeah, what was the next part after that?
Oh, it was Page and Omega.
Yes. So Page has put a big win streak together on Ring of Honor, apparently, and as you say, physically he's in great shape as well.
Yeah.
Again, somebody that I think highly of. I think AEW think highly of, but he's not really had too much of the spotlight in his run there so far. I think his visa has gone through from what I read. Yeah. So he's a permanent US citizen now. Although that match next week is in Canada. But maybe because of that, now he has got his green card, I think it's called in the States. I think maybe we'll be seeing him more consistently. Maybe he had travel issues or there was restrictions as to why he couldn't appear as much. So I'm hoping he has a good showing against Omega, because Ethan Page and Kenny, both names that we could have saw in the C2, and given the success of it, I'm sure the C2 will return next year. And Ethan Page is somebody, if he can put a run together between now and then, he's definitely somebody that could be involved in it and go a long way in that tournament.
Definitely so. I'm just going to switch gears a minute because I forgot to mention this on Dynamite, and I think it's quite an interesting thing. Zach Zodiac, our good friend of ours that we spoke to, he's now in America. He's got his card, the green card, as you imagine, and he had to leave RKJ, Ricky Knight Jr., in the Revolution Pro Tag Tournament that they're doing, like a tag league. They're doing like a G1 style tag.
Yeah,
and his replacement is Anthony Ogogo, funnily enough, who they've chosen. Now we're talking Devils and Goons here. Could Zach Zodiac be one of those people?
There's a potential. Are you thinking like kind of a British contingency, or
Maybe just, I don't know. I'm just
just
thinking,
him?
obviously, we're assuming he's going to AEW, and we don't know that for any type of factual, as nothing's been officially announced. But, under a mask at the minute, I'm not saying the devil, but maybe one of the devil's associates.
Yeah, I certainly think if it's Sammy Callahan, which was I don't know if that's your prediction or somebody that you're kind of thrown in the mix.
Just someone I've thrown in the mix because I knew
Yeah,
the agent.
I could definitely see Zach Zodiac being aligned with somebody like an experienced Sammy Callahan and calling the shots, and he's got his goons doing his bidding. So yeah, that's not a bad shout. Again, we've speculated a lot on who is behind the devil mask and who is associated with the devil. Given the fact that he's got that permanent residency in the States, he's paid Soraya's brother. And we've seen him on AEW TV a couple of times, supporting his sister. Wouldn't surprise me too much if Zach signs for AEW. He told us when we talked to him earlier on in the year that he was after that contract, that he's wrestled a lot of countries, a lot of places. He would love the opportunity to sign a contract at one of the big companies, and hopefully he has. And we wish Zach all the best, regardless.
We do indeed. Let's just move on now. House of Black against Matt Sydal and Christopher Daniels. Real different tag match for the House of Black this time. Some two wily old veterans in this one, in Sydal and Daniels. I mean, the House of Black gets the win. The lights go out and FTR are there, and all of a sudden, the Black offers FTR a spot on the team. But they'll get destroyed at a time and get destroyed. But interestingly, on this one, when FTR, the fans were more House of Black than they were FTR. So obviously get your thoughts on the match, but also do you think that potentially here we're going to have a switch here and House of Black may be faces and FTR may turn heel?
Yeah, in regards to the match, I thought it was a really competitive one. And as I say, sometimes I'd like to see the House of Black being a bit more dominant and finishing off teams a bit quicker. But when we have a great tag team match like that, and we have Christopher Daniels doing suicide dives, and we had the double knee to Aura spot as well with Brody and Sydal, I thought this was really good. Right winners, obviously. I thought the Black Mass, or the End, as he calls it in AEW, that kick is just sensational. I don't think there's so many kick finishes where you can kind of critique it, or it doesn't look quite perfect. We've seen it with switching musics. We've seen it with brogue kicks. We've seen it with, flying knees, perhaps on occasion, where they don't just quite connect. The End kick, he just gets it spot on every time. I don't think he's ever misplaced it. It just looks devastating. And combined with Buddy's stomp as well, I think they've got two really good finishes there. So the match was great, right winners. Interesting, the development with FTR. Were they considering it? Because they did hold off. I thought how Malachi placed the microphone down foreshadowed what was about to come. And Dak set a knee to the face, and we had that beat down. But the reaction is interesting because, as you say, House of Black heels, FTR, big fan favorites, big baby faces, but you wouldn't have known that from the reaction. So, we'll see where this one goes. It's ultimately going to go to World's End in terms of a match. But who wins that match and what happens character-wise after that remains to be seen.
Indeed, it does. I'm very intrigued in that one. Speaking of intriguing, and this match has sort of come out of the blue, it was El Hijo del Vikingo and Kip Sabian. It was a quick match, didn't get a lot of time, but definitely generated a lot of oohs and ahs from the crowd with some of the amazing moves that these two are pulling out. I just think, obviously, we have to counter the fact the main event and who was in it, and that took time. Obviously, the first match was on for a while. I would love to see, Dave, these two go at it in a longer match. This was unbelievably good, considering, no build, no real story behind it. And you haven't seen Kip Sabian wrestle properly in so long, and you forget how good he is.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously from these shores as well. I think he's from Norfolk.
He wants to do podcasts, territory. By the way.
He will come on, will he?
Well, I don't know. He said he wants to do them. He tweeted.
That'd be great if we could get him on, because I think now the Butcher and the Blade have gone. I think that could really present an opportunity for Kip, particularly when he's putting these matches in. I mean, Shivani said on commentary a couple of times that Tony Khan had announced a couple of additional matches for Collision because the tournament matches hadn't gone the distance, and this was one of them. Well, I thought this was great, and we talk about at times two wrestlers not having chemistry, and I think this was the opposite. I think Vikingo and Kip, I don't know if they've worked together before, but they looked like they had, because they put on a great match, some great high spots, some great dives. And Vikingo, some of the moves he pulls off, the 630, the Phoenix splash from the middle rope from the outside in, he's just breathtaking. So there's no wonder he's still got that triple R mega title. He's their champion. Obviously good relationship with Tony Khan and AEW, because we saw him in a few matches in the past week. Does that mean I think then he competed on Dynamite, Rampage, and Collision?
I think so.
I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Big week. Big week.
So they're getting their money's worth out of him. But yeah, somebody that I would like to see a bit more in terms of character, and maybe that's because he isn't signed to AEW. He just comes in and has these breathtaking matches. But I would definitely like to see more of Vikingo, but definitely I'd like to see more of Kip Sabian. Again, could he be involved? Is he a goon? Who knows?
Man. We could go on this all the time. Who's a goon and who's not? Who would it be on the turnbuckle?
That's what he said about that British contingency before. I thought, Kip. Zach.
We have to do a turnbuckle one. Andy could be the devil and we'd be the goons, I suppose.
Yeah.
That's how it would work. Maybe Chris.
I'm happy to be a goon, mate.
Would be a goon, yeah, me too. And funnily enough, at the end of that match, Vikingo did ask to shake Kip Sabian's hand. He declined that.
Yeah, I saw that. I thought that was a smart thing to do as well, because Kip obviously he's a great heel character. You love to hate him. So I don't want to see him turn face anytime soon. I think the mileage is him as a heel, but on his own now, without his backup of the Butcher and the Blade, we'll see if he can carve out a position for himself on Collision, perhaps. And again, somebody looking ahead, tournaments and titles. Somebody that could be in the running for both.
Could well be. We'll see. Backstage, they've done the Keith Lee and Shane Taylor at Final Battle has been announced. So maybe that was what Keith Lee was talking about the other week, what we wasn't sure about. You mentioned CJ Perry. So she was in the back, and Miro tried to storm into Andrade's locker room, but she said, if you love me, you leave me to it. And he did. So that plays into what you said earlier on. Perhaps we're going to get another Miro Andrade match down the line. I hope that we do for certain. But Dave, the main event, Jesus Christ. I mean, Danielson, Kingston. I mean, I loved every single minute of this. I mean, these are two of my favorites in AEW. That I like both of these guys. I mean, they delivered this story was like brutal, but it was emotional and it was kind of beautiful in a way. The way in which they panned out Kingston as the sort of hero guy that's down on his luck. He's trying to win a match. He's trying to do everything to win. He ultimately loses again. In this, Danielson picks up the win. Danielson's first C2 match, Kingston's second. But Dave, this match was just unbelievable. Even from because sometimes AEW has great action without the story, but this combined them both, and it was an absolutely amazing main event.
It was incredible, and I can't say enough about Eddie Kingston and how he makes you care and how he makes you feel. He's just as you say, it's beautiful. It's art, which then we're talking about pro wrestling here, but it really is the way it conveys the story and how you get behind him and how you feel every victory and every loss. Every time he's triumphant and every time he comes up short, he makes you care. That's the best way I can put it. Eddie Kingston makes you care. Again, suspect that this one could go the distance, but at the same time, the story that they're telling is one that Eddie's gonna go down a few matches and be on 0 points, and it's whether he can muster a comeback and what he can achieve. I'm really fascinated by this. I'm really kind of totally into the story. And I can't wait to see what Eddie's got to say. Hopefully we'll hear from him on Dynamite.
Yeah.
I loved how he was shouting, no, as he knew the end was coming.
Yeah.
He knew the end was nigh. He knew Danielson had got to his feet quicker than he did, and he knew he had no defense to the Psycho knee, which Danielson executed on Eddie, who was on his knees at the time. Great finish to the match. You know, Eddie was just laying there motionless for the whole time. Danielson was celebrating, and then Danielson bought a sign in the ring that said Eddie Kingston is a bum. You know, Eddie is a bum. I don't know if you saw that. It was right at the end of the broadcast, and it was just before they cut it. And it was interesting that Danielson bought that in the ring and he put it on Eddie's face. I can't wait to hear Eddie's reaction to that. Obviously, you know, all part of the show. But whether that bit was, you know, Danielson's obviously done that because I think Eddie's going to be fine about it ultimately in terms of personally. But it was great to see Eddie's reaction from a character point of view.
It will be good to see if we see it on Dynamite. But Collision, Dave, rating for you? What did you give it?
I'm probably at an 8 for Collision, to be honest, given the in-ring stuff. We didn't get a whole lot. There was bits of development in terms of stories and stuff, but I just thought the in-ring was so good. Again, I could have easily gone with that main event for match of the night, but I love the Andrade Garcia match as well. As I love the Claudio and Brody King match. I like the women's match. There wasn't much I didn't like on this Collision. If anything, as you said, we've just discussed, Kip Sabian Vikingo was good. The tag match was good with House of Black. The intrigue about the House of Black story and FTR and what's happening there. There was just so much good stuff that I can't score this under an 8.
No, I gave it an 8.5, actually. I thought it was... it's hard to give it higher. It's just... you know, I couldn't give it higher than that, but not because it was bad. It was just... because I couldn't, you know.
No, I said that same after the Dynamite review. I'll give Dynamite a 7.5 this week. And you're kind of gauging it off past Dynamites and past Collisions. But this for me, even if we didn't do the ratings, it was just a great show. It was just a great show. I've watched 2 episodes of AEW TV this week that I've really enjoyed. There was no element of me wanting to skim through anything. I was captivated from the moment the show started to the moments they finished. I thought the endings for both shows were great. I think this tournament has been fantastic. And I think it's just building as well. I think we're going to get, as the stakes matter more and those points matter more, I think we're going to get better matches, more near falls, more close false finishes. I think it's going to be interesting, some of the stuff that spirals out of the tournament as well. You know, it's not just about the 2 guys that win the tournament. We're going to see some stories that develop off the back of wins and losses in the tournament. You know, the Eddie Kingston stuff, great. You know, even in loss, he just, I don't know, he gets more and more over with every performance, every kind of outing you see him. As I say, you care. So can't wait to see his reaction to his second loss of the tournament and where he goes from here.
Me too. And before we start wrapping up, obviously, like we've just already mentioned, Eric Bischoff is coming on the 14th of December. Dave, you'll be joining, and we've already discussed that. You're heading off to BCCW this Friday night.
Friday night.
Yeah, you're out. Friday night in Tipton with Dave. You're heading off to BCCW.
You're selling it, man.
I'm selling it. I mean, come on. But they're nearly sold out from what I read. Is that right?
Yeah, they're pretty much sold out every show, mate, to be honest, in there. I definitely think at some point they're going to outgrow the venue. Arguably, they've done that because they could definitely get more people in there. Always a great show, very professional setup. They've got big screens. They've got, you know, everything you'd expect from a kind of well-established wrestling company. They've got a lot of that going on at BCCW. So really, really looking forward to getting there Friday. Looking forward to seeing Jim Hunter back in the ring. His first match for several years, since certainly this side of COVID. He appeared in their Royal Rumble.
Royal Rumble, isn't it?
Yeah. But yeah, Jim will be stepping back in the ring, and he'll be up against his brother as well in the Fatal 4-Way. So that'll be definitely a great match.
Well, looking forward for you filling me in on that one, Dave. As you say, it's Friday night in Tipton, BCCW. If you haven't got a ticket, hurry up and get it. It will be sold out for sure. I'll be sitting down with CJ Carter on Tuesday, to discuss the year in review of Ignite. Obviously, we've got Eric Bischoff, and also potentially the first guest of 2024 will be ex-WWE, WCW wrestler Bryan Clark. You'll probably know him from his days as Adam Bomb or Guy from Chronic, the tag team in WWE. So we'd be interested to get Eric Bischoff's views on Chronic, perhaps.
Yeah.
When we go. But as always, on the AEW review, I let Dave finish off. So, Dave, you've mastered this now. I'm hoping you don't make any mistakes. Please go ahead.
Well, it's time to bid you all adieu. Goodbye, mwah, and good night, bang.
And stay safe, everybody.